Now let's look at this portrait. Let's look at the silhouette first. Again. So we have the silhouette. The details are eliminated again, and the variety of the shapes still read. We have also the lighting, the basic lighting, shadow shapes. It's really simplified. So when we work further on it, we can paint in all these form changes. Yeah, a lot of form changes of halftones, etc. And then all the details of the material, the skin in this case. When we want to detail things out, we need to really zoom in and see all these intricacies of detail. We really want to know how things look like. This seems so logical, but somehow we keep using low resolution canvases when painting details. But doing so, we can't even see and understand all these details ourselves. In painting these details, it really helps to render things out step by step and having the patience to render out every single area. Really, the skin is well rendered, and we zoom in and can see that this painting might be really large, right? Because we have all these details in the skin. And when you paint digitally, you should also strive for this high resolution canvas so that you can see and paint all these details. Just compare both pictures and see how one isn't as detailed and the second one is just so much more detailed. And the canvas size is 7000 pixels here because I wanted to make sure to show you all these details. So now here are some examples of high resolution textures. With these we can effectively analyze the physical behavior of the textures. We can find them on Google, and when you set the image size to 2 megapixels, you also might want to go to Wikipedia to understand the physical behavior even better. A good book on lighting is also the book by James Gurney, Color and Light. And looking at these textures, it really is all about how light is interacting with the surface. Like the light is falling in and then bouncing off this really rough material, reflecting off the surface, and etc. Or also the color of the subsurface scattering that is appearing here. And you can study all these details with looking at these high-resolution photos. And it's not only for skin, but all materials. But do we really need to paint all these details? The answer is no. The most effective way to paint details is to overlay the textures over your base. You might hand paint everything, painting all these subtle gradients, but hand painting these might take several weeks or months for a big painting. Like I mentioned, you could and need to look at these references and understand the physical behavior of those materials on that light situation. That way you can learn to paint these materials yourself, you can learn to simplify the shapes and also to blend in the photo textures so they look realistic. Again, when you struggle with painting lips, for example, just grab this high-resolution photo and study all these subtle plane changes and structure. Because when you look at lips from afar, there's no way in understanding the structure and details of the lips. Also, it is best to take references that are already lit in the way you want your scene to be lit. That way you don't need to repaint all of the lighting. Now let's talk about designing the texture shapes with unity and variety and the focal area. Finishing a painting doesn't mean that we arbitrarily render out everything we see. Once we understand the physical behavior of these textures, we need to design them so that they look good compositionally. Also ask yourself if the texture shapes you paint fit in harmoniously into the painting. Do they have a variety of proportions and shape language? Adding textures really gives another level of variety to the image. But as everything, we need to keep the image unified as well. So that is where having focal points really helps. Using them, we can determine areas of attention by having complex texture areas in one area and areas of rest by using simpler shapes. In this painting, we clearly have areas with a lot of details and areas with less details. These are the areas of detail. Here we already have less detail, and that is also apparent here. Here we have a lot of detail. Because we have such a contrast here, we also look at this place. Also notice how Sargent designs these shapes, because they fit into the whole. They aren't just painted like materials, like arbitrary materials, but they have edges, they have simplified values, they have simplified shapes and color. So again, everything is designed. Now let's go back to this portrait and let's talk about the pushing of forms. When we push the forms, we want to paint the lightest light and darkest dark. This is the step where we add some specularity and darkest shadows to the forms. Go back into this and push some of the darks. This eye is really the darkest dark, which should be painted last. Or the highlights on the nose, that's the light. The highlights on the nose, and the teeth, and also these areas on the chest. And really push these darkest forms as the last step. Let's also talk about the last step you can do for finishing a painting, which is VFX. Now that we have finished everything, we might push some of the contrasts and temperatures around to really bring the image together or make some final adjustments. We might want to add any effects you like a blur or light effects like lens blurs, etc. So what I can do here is just using some of the levels. Maybe I want it to be a bit darker or a bit lighter. Now for the conclusion. Again, when trying to finish a painting, go through this checklist and see if all of these points apply to your painting. And that's it for this week's video. If you like the videos, please like and subscribe to our channel. Feel free to share our videos, and if you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. See you soon!